Some of you may remember the old ESPN Radio Mike and Mike show. So we're hoping to duplicate some of that and talk about all things manufacturing. So this series, we're going to have a few of these throughout the year, and just wanted to say, thank you to kind of our sponsors and supporters at the Maryland Department of Commerce, CFG Bank, Baltimore County government, as well as some of the other stakeholders that we work with pretty closely that help us put these on. And our goal, as always, is to provide value to you, all the manufacturers. So just logistics for today before I turn it over to Mike. Everyone is on mute. So if you have questions or you want to ask a question, please use the chat function, and Stacy Smith and myself and Mike will moderate that and try to repeat those questions out and get most of them answered. We are recording this, so we'll make it available to everybody. And with that, Mike, I'll turn it over to you to welcome our guests for the first conversation, but I'm excited about the thoughts and the discussion that we're going to have today.
Yeah, and thanks, Mike. And this will be kind of a community conversation. We're really excited today because we have Randy with us. But before I get to Randy, very quickly, I just want to mention a couple of folks. Mike mentioned CFG Bank. They've been a major supporter of our industry, and we have Grace Doyle and David Gutierrez online with us today. I have to mention my dear and great good friend, Troy, over there at TEDCO, is on the line with us today. Troy, thank you so much for joining us. Mike Netzer and Dr. Curtinitis, Sandra Curtinitis of CCBC is on our board for RMI. Happy to have you there with us today. And also we have online with us Delegate Lily Shee, who we'll hear from a little bit later on. Lily has been instrumental in advocating for Maryland manufacturing. I think most of you know that. And we have a representative from Delegate Wu's office, and also Delegate Rachel Munoz. So, and I may have pronounced that wrong, so I apologize. Anyway, so Mike asked me to talk about the future of Maryland manufacturing. It's real simple: technology, talent, and transformation. And there isn't a better example of why that's true than what you're going to hear today from Randy Altschuler, who is the CEO and the co-founder of Xometry. I just want to say that ever since Randy set up his company to support manufacturing globally, I've always referred to him as an Industry 4.0 platform. And you're going to learn today about Xometry and about some really interesting data. Governor Moore says, show me the data. Well, today you're going to hear a lot of data that clearly supports the need to make manufacturing in Maryland a priority. So Randy, I know you're short on time today, so I want to turn it over to you, and please tell us about your surveys and other insights that you have for our audience today.
Well, great, Mike, and good morning, everyone. And Mike, I remember the old ESPN. I'm not sure. I think there was a big Mike and a little Mike, so not sure which is which. But and Mike Galeazzo, I remember when my wife is from Maryland and we moved here about a decade ago.
Yeah.
We started Xometry, and one of the very first people I met was you, Mike, to understand the landscape manufacturing here. And you were already a leader back then and continue to be a leader. So thank you. Also want to do a shout out to TEDCO. I think you mentioned on their call, they were an investor of Xometry before we went public. And I want to thank TEDCO as well. So first of all, I speak for all of us at Xometry in applauding the great work of RMI and the MEP in championing Maryland manufacturing at all levels, from new recruitment measures to supporting existing manufacturers to pushing initiatives at the state and local levels. And together, all of us are doing the important work to strengthen manufacturing right here in Maryland. And every day, all of us at Xometry come to work with one singular objective in mind: to champion the manufacturers who build the big ideas that move our world forward. So we have a two-sided AI-powered marketplace, and we know what buyers are seeking and what manufacturers are offering. But from time to time, we look beyond our own four walls here at Xometry to get a broader sentiment of what's happening among CEOs, business leaders, and the general public, particularly as it revolves around manufacturing. Because manufacturing is the backbone of our economy, although many people see it as an outdated industry with limited growth. But all of us here today on this call and beyond know that it's actually very different, and that manufacturing country and it provides tremendous, high-paid, great jobs. So we all don't know that here. So over the last 18 months, we've partnered together with Forbes magazine and Zogby, one of the large national pollsters, to conduct quarterly American manufacturing resilience polls. And these surveys track CEO and decision-making sentiment at more than 150 leading companies nationally. And the polls give us insight into what's happening on multiple fronts, from reshoring initiatives to talent to existing and emerging technologies like AI. What do people think about AI, robotics, and automation? So Mike and Mike asked me to share a recap of the last survey with you, what it means for a future, and also a separate poll that we did of Maryland voters to track their sentiment towards the industry. So it's election time, and we've been doing some polling from voters to see what they thought. So let me start with our CEO decision-making quarterly surveys that we do. So when we first began polling in the summer of 2022, the buzzword in the industry was reshoring. Now, we knew it from our own data that companies were moving their operations closer to home in a bid to create local resilient supply chains, particularly in light of black swan events like COVID, concerns about climate change, and of course, geopolitical tensions around the world. Our independent polling confirmed that reshoring is something that's important, but it also found something else, that as companies were strengthening their domestic operations, they were also investing significantly in technology and talent. So it wasn't just about reshoring, but it was actually also about doubling down on their talent and their technology. So in other words, CEOs and decision makers weren't just reshoring for the sake of reshoring, but they were also investing in the long term, which bodes well for all of us in the manufacturing industry, and it bodes well for America that people are actually trying to plant the seeds here for American manufacturing to stick. And of course, this was buoyed, these efforts, by major federal initiatives like the CHIPS Act and Science Act, to the American infrastructure legislation, as well as state initiatives. So when you look at that trend towards reshoring, plus the state and local, state and federal initiatives, this has just given more fuel to the fire. And again, our polls are showing that, in fact, these large companies are reshoring. So all of us should, as manufacturers, should hopefully be taking advantage of that. But the surveys confirm that this was a widespread push across all industries. So you see this in not just in semiconductors, but in lots of industries. And it includes the small and medium-sized shops that dominate American manufacturing. So in America, there are over 600,000 manufacturers. On average, they have less than 20 employees. And we're finding that even these small shops have the opportunity to take advantage of this reshoring effort. Here's what our most recent survey found. And we just did it. So first, reshoring continues. 3/4 of CEOs have successfully reshored some or all of their overseas facilities and continue to do so. So 75% of these top 150 companies are doing some reshoring today. And I urge all of you with your customers, if they're particularly larger companies and have offshore or international operations, reshoring, you should go to them, I think, pretty aggressively and hope, to help them reshore here right to Maryland. That 3/4 number, 75%, is up a lot from the 48% we saw in Q3 of last year. So there's been a big jump in a relatively short period of time in the number of companies that are reshoring. And that's up a lot more from 35% just 1 quarter earlier. So this trend is gaining steam. And I think with the recent elections in Taiwan and other things that you're reading about, I think it's only going to continue. Also, nearly every CEO that we polled says AI already does or will play a part in their manufacturing operations. So Mike Galeazzo and Mike Keller talk about 4.0 and moving forward. These large, leading companies are all using AI in manufacturing. And 70% of these CEOs said that they've seen a significant ROI in key areas because of this AI, such as supply chain management, quality control, and procurement. So they're not using AI for ChatGPT, but they're using AI to actually drive operational efficiencies and improve their and help with supply chain management. So again, this is, I think, good lessons for all of us as manufacturers. And these CEOs believe that AI will deliver much needed financial workflow and other benefits in the near term. These CEOs are also very bullish on the impacts of automation and robotics on their businesses, and they're investing in those. And I think that resonates with all of us because we know that the labor deficiency we don't have enough people. Most manufacturers can't have trouble running second shifts, much less third shifts. Investing in automation and robotics will enable you to be more productive, generate more revenue, and will allow us in a higher cost labor environment to be more competitive. And again, these large company CEOs are doing just that. And third, these CEOs, no surprise here, talked about talent. And more than half, 56%, said that the tight labor market is hampering their ability to hire. So that's tough. 47% of these CEOs said they wanted to bring on more talent in 2024. So people are hiring, but the majority of them are having serious problems with it. So that's our quarterly CEO. That's results from our quarterly CEO survey that we do with a national survey together with Zogby and Forbes magazine. Then, as I mentioned, we've done some polling of Maryland and actually the first 5 states that are having presidential primaries and caucuses. Not surprising, sort of across the board. In today's, in New Hampshire, but in all the states, the consensus is clear that voters in all these states overwhelmingly support rebuilding America's manufacturing infrastructure and investing in our talent. So voters are speaking loudly that they want America to invest in America. And again, the data from our polling with CEOs reflects that trend. There's more and more reshoring. But we also did, again, as I said, a poll right here in Maryland. And let me run through the results of the Maryland poll. So nearly 90% of Maryland voters, which was higher, actually a little bit higher than the response we saw in the 5 early primary states, which includes places like South Carolina. So states that you've got a fair amount of manufacturing, said that manufacturing is important in Maryland. So that's good to know for all of us that our fellow state members really believe in manufacturing. More than 75% of Maryland voters believe that Maryland has a strong opportunity to become an innovative leader in high-tech manufacturing. So that includes using AI, robotics, automation, and cloud-based services and software. So the voters here are saying, yes, manufacturing is super important in Maryland, but they really see us as the opportunity to innovate. And not surprising considering, what we have in Maryland from our educational institutions, a highly trained workforce here, but also an expensive one. And here's another great thing, and this really just underscores the great work that Mike Galeazzo and Mike Gallagher are doing with the state and the government here. 90% support the use of public money to help invest in our manufacturing infrastructure, as well as to help fund scholarships for students who want to pursue a career in manufacturing. So we've got some great community colleges in our state that have got relatively low-cost education degrees for want to train to be technicians, machinists, etc. There's a lot of support from Maryland voters and Maryland people about helping subsidize those scholarships. So again, we also at Xometry, just as an aside, we believe strongly in trying to invest in education and trying to bring more talent to manufacturing. We funded 57 scholarships for the Community College of Baltimore County for folks who are studying to be in manufacturing. So look, I've never been more optimistic about manufacturing and the role that Maryland is playing in driving the digital transformation. And I'm excited that we're founded based here in Maryland in Montgomery County. So with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and I'll turn it back to you, Mike.
Thank you, Randy. We have a question that came earlier about the why are some of the reasons why companies are reshoring. What's going on with that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, some of it's driven by concerns of geopolitical tensions. There's obviously things are pretty shaky right now with various wars. You've got the Ukrainian war, you've got what's going on in the Middle East, you've got the tensions with China over the elections in Taiwan and overall. So I think people, companies are concerned that they're going to lose the spigot's going to get turned off. I think that's critical. And then again, things like COVID just open up your eyes that there's real weakness when you have such a far-flung supply chain. And I think, again, we can take advantage of that right here in Maryland and in the United States, and bring more work back here. But we know that we have a labor cost disadvantage, so we're going to have to use technology to bridge that gap. Otherwise, and companies are largely driven by the bottom line. So we could take advantage of that reshoring trend, but as you all know, price always matters.
Yeah.
It always does.
Randy, you guys touch on a lot of different industries and products with your platform. Is there a specific industry or product you're seeing that is a bigger push to reshore?
In terms of reshoring, we're seeing kind of across the board, Mike. I wouldn't say there's any one particular one that we're seeing. I did want to say one thing though, so Xometry, some of you may not be aware of what we do. So we're not actually a manufacturer. We're a marketplace for manufacturing. So we've got tens of thousands of customers who come and buy from us manufacturing, and then we source it. We use AI to identify manufacturers across the country and sometimes across the world to manufacture the parts. So I will tell you though, Mike, one area I think for us here in Maryland is that, and some of you already know this because defense is a big industry here, but the aerospace industry continues to just boom. And I think, particularly some of the more innovative companies that you're seeing on the West Coast, a lot of these are coming out of SpaceX, which has sort of spawned lots of smaller companies and Blue Origin, et cetera. They need more manufacturing capacity. They've really tapped the machine shops on the West Coast are pretty full up. I would just caution for those here on the call who have open capacity, trying to extend your reach out to particularly aerospace in the West Coast. There is demand, and there's more and more acceptance of ordering that remotely, not making that just a local transaction.
So were you surprised when you got the results from the Maryland voters?
I was, Mike, you've been relentless in drumming beating the drum about how important manufacturing is to Maryland. I think most politicians probably like to say it's important, but don't really believe it. And when you think about, Maryland in general, you don't think manufacturing, but hey, the good news is that, well, a couple things. First of all, we do have a lot of manufacturing here, which is wonderful. But the second thing is that the voters actually recognize that. And we should ride that trend and make sure that our politicians, our elected officials, whether it's on the county level or on the state level, recognize that and invest accordingly. So I think that's something we should take full advantage of. And it's good for our state and it's good for our country. So this could be a win-win.
Randy,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
We just had a question come in, and I'm going to throw this to you first because Xometry is really the expert in this, and you guys are built on this. But a question came in asking, you've mentioned AI several times, and can you elaborate on how AI is being utilized by manufacturers? And maybe if you want to talk a little bit about how you all integrate AI into what you've built, and then what you're seeing from an AI standpoint across the industry.
Yeah, so we use AI in a number of different ways. So for example, when we price things, we have a lot of automated pricing, and all of that is done by AI. So, normally most people on this call will know, should costing, right? You'll do a bottoms up, you'll figure out how much material costs, how long the machine's going to run. You've got some sort of hourly rates, and so you build your pricing from the bottom up. We actually don't do that, partly because it would just take too long. We have just a lot of, we're online. We're like a real-time e-commerce platform. So we use what's called machine learning, which is an AI technique to calculate instant pricing. And then we also use that AI to figure out, once a customer orders, who would be the optimal manufacturer to actually make those parts. So I think that those are some of the applications that we use it for right now. And then in terms of other applications we're seeing, so for example, people are using AI for DFM. for figuring out the way to optimize the design of a part. So first, just even design a part, and then beyond the design of part, how to optimize it for manufacturing. So and there's lots of software packages that are available that you can get out. Some of them are more expensive than others, but I think it will just help you increase your throughput and also optimize the outcomes for your customers so they're not disappointed. Some customers don't necessarily know the best way to get something manufactured or what are some of the puts and takes. You can leverage AI to do that. So I think, again, there's lots of good software packages out there that are beginning to integrate that in there.
So Randy, I sent out and I put in chat a link to a video on AI that I saw the other day, and it was high level. And basically, I think it's important that people understand that AI is not just another technology. It is fundamentally going to systemically change the way in which we live our lives. And it's something that's happening sooner rather than later. I think, and Mike Kelleher, so happy that we have MEP in Maryland. There's going to have to be a lot of work done on the part of us who are trying to support manufacturers to help them understand the answer to that question. How do we use AI? And not just, if I may, it's not just with the manufacturers, it's the service providers. We also have an opportunity to use the robustness of AI to do a better job of helping companies meet their unmet needs. So it's going to be pretty significant shift for those of you who are going to be in that game. Mike, what do you think? Kelleher.
Yeah, if you're in our industry and you're not paying attention to AI and looking at how it's been used, Randy had some great examples of uses of it on the floor, but we're seeing it across preventative maintenance, predictive maintenance, the machine learning, getting the machines to talk to each other, quality control, right? Looking at run times and defects and downtimes. All of this is moving into a space and a world where the technology's there, making sure you've got someone on your team who understands what to do with that data and how to use that data to your advantage is really going to be critical to how we move forward. If you're not paying attention to AI, talk to your kids or your grandkids because they're using it to do their homework, right? So we as an industry need to really catch up and embrace it.
Well, hopefully they're not using it to do their homework, but I agree with.
As a dad of 5, I can tell you they're using it to do their homework.
Okay.
Randy, I know we've got you for just a short period of time, but we had a question come in talking about AI and how it's potentially eliminating jobs and how do we ensure human capital sustained. And I know Mike and I can talk about the human capital side, but I think what you've done, what you guys have built, it broke the dynamic. It changed the model of how the B2B connections and the bidding and transactions are taking place, but yet you still employ hundreds of people here in Maryland. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, look, I think it's Mike, it's also similar to concerns people have, as the machines was moved from manual to more automation, are we going to lose jobs? But again, we have a dearth of jobs here. I'm sure if we polled everybody on this call, their number one issue is probably they don't have enough, they can't staff, right? Right alongside with demand, that's huge. Same thing in AI. So it's not a case of Terminator, machines haven't taken over. We actually have to program the AI. You have to actually use the data from the AI to make changes. So this actually is spawning lots of high-paying, high-demand jobs. The AI will just allow you to be more efficient and allow you to sort of to punch above your weight. And again, we know here that there's not only not enough labor, but our labor is expensive. So if you want to take an average person and allow them to be more productive and generate for your businesses more, AI allows you to do that. So it's more of like a companion, something that can help versus a replacement. And again, just to build that AI, maintain that AI, apply that AI. It's the same thing with data. We're overwhelmed with data, which is great. It helps companies be more powerful, but then you need a whole bunch of people help you use that data effectively. Similar thing with the AI.
And Randy, I love that term, almost a companion, because I'm seeing companies around the state using it to augment their workforce, right? There's companies that are using AI or collaborative robotics and automation to augment that workforce, and now they're able to run their machines over a night shift, right? So the last crew sets it up so that the robots and the AI are machine tending over the night, and so it's not taking jobs away, but it's adding to the productivity of the company, and it's in a spot where typically they've had a hard time finding workers. Nobody wants to sit in front of that machine all night long.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, Randy, just changing just slightly to your Maryland survey. We just heard Governor Moore at Mako last year, or this past year, say we have a lackluster economy. Interesting enough, he mentioned 3 states that are doing better than us, and they all have strong manufacturing bases. And then, of course, Controller Learman just came out with a report that fundamentally substantiated the same thing, that our economy is not doing as well as it could be. So now you're telling me you checked in with voters in Maryland, and they're like 90% rah manufacturing. There's a gap here. Nobody could argue that Maryland does a good job supporting manufacturing. I'm sorry, folks. I've been doing this for 30 years. There's so much more we should be doing. And I think manufacturing needs to be a priority. But when you got the voters saying it's important, but the public policy decisions are not really supporting that, I guess I'm trying to say, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, I don't mean to get you involved in a political thing, but it's really frustrating. The people on this call, they're all pro-manufacturing. They're part of that voter base. But yet, I don't see Maryland. I mean, let's face it, if you made Maryland manufacturing a priority, we would help our economy. I don't think there's any question about that. Your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I agree. And I think one very practical thing that all of us can do on this call, wherever we are in Maryland, to invite local, county elected officials to come visit your facilities and see what it's all about. Like everybody, wants to visit Capital One in Virginia, in Tyson's Corner or things like that. But imagine if we were inviting them to come see manufacturing facilities. And then when you get those elected officials there, then they can see for themselves, and it's exciting. Who doesn't want to see a plant where something's being made, right? Old-fashioned manufacturing where something productive is happening. So I think we can impact that support at a very local level, and it matters. The state obviously matters too, and we've got wonderful people like yourself, Mike, who are lobbying for it. But on the county level, we've got to push that story home. We're trying to do that right here in Montgomery County. You don't think about Montgomery County manufacturing. We're pushing hard, but certainly across the state, all of us should be doing the same thing. And by the way, it's great to have those folks come too. It's great for your employees, and it just raises your visibility among the community at a different level.
Randy, I love that one. I think we need to record that and put that out there as our message, because across the state, we've got manufacturers in every single county in Maryland. And what you just shared is probably the single most impactful and lowest hanging fruit that we can undertake, right? We need to tell our stories. We need to open our doors and show our legislators, our stakeholders, our educators, the kids, what we're doing, right? There's manufacturers in every corner, and most of us drive by them every day, and we don't know what goes on behind those walls. And there's really cool things being made right here in Maryland. So doing more to open that up and tell that story.
Absolutely.
Well, it's also the fact that we lag behind so much in manufacturing. The story from my perspective is we're not doing enough to grow Maryland's manufacturing, the folks that are here, so that we can add more to the workforce and to the economy. That's also what's lacking. Mike, you know this. I mean, we just we're not in the game when it compares to other states. Hey, Stacy, are you here? Stacy Smith, can you unmute Delegate Shi? Is Lily online, Delegate Shi?
I'm looking and I don't see her.
Her office was. I'm not sure if that was her or not.
Yeah, I'm not seeing her here as Lily Chi. Let's see.
I know we got a lot of names here, so.
Yeah, her office is on here. I'm unmuting.
Let's
Hi,
go.
Mike. This is Katie with Delegate Chi's office. Unfortunately, the delegate isn't on right now.
Okay, all right, okay, I just wanted to make, because we were talking about politicians, I wanted to give her a shot at it, but thanks anyway, Katie. All right,
We appreciate it. All right, bye.
so let's go to Troy. Troy, are you with us? Real quick, can we unmute Troy from TEDCO? Troy, are you with us?
I am here, Mike. I appreciate you putting me on.
Yeah, man, you better support me. You better say Mike's right. Come on. Real quick comment, because Randy's got to leave at 9:30. So is there anything that you heard as it relates to Maryland and what we need to do? And this voter thing is really interesting. I can't wait until I see it.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me. Thanks for having this. I think this is an extremely important conversation. I think 2 or 3 very quick things. I think remember last year we put out a report as well about the Equitech, and one of the fundamental things it said is that Maryland has to do better around manufacturing. And Mike, you and I have talked about this. I think we've got to change the language of manufacturing. I think when most people who aren't on this call hear the word manufacturing, no disrespect to anybody, they think of Detroit making cars, putting cars together. And there is a range of types of manufacturing that can occur that we can be a leader in here in Maryland. And back to your political point, Mike, and I've said this to you and others, I think because of the history of how we think about manufacturing, our zoning requirements deed manufacturing into, into warehouse districts, as opposed to the fact that, to your point, Randy, data folks and people who work at our cyber companies can work at these manufacturing places, but we don't think about that type of stuff. And so I think there's a fundamental rethinking, Mike, that all of us need to do to rethink that. And then the last thing I'll say is I agree also with Randy on AI. I think 2 things. One is I think there's a lot of vaporware in AI. I think there's a lot of some hype. I think the reason it's become such a big deal is because the consumer has now seen the benefit of AI. We've had AI for a long time. We just didn't call it AI.
Yeah.
You don't put somebody on the moon unless you have some version of AI. Let's just be blunt about it. And so just because of the technology and the retelling of AI, people are. But that said, I think we've got to move away from this hype that is taking away jobs. Randy is right. What it does, it enhances the job. It makes the job a better job to have, as opposed to this notion of replacing people. And so I think I'll close, Mike, is that I think we have to play a role in changing the narrative of what manufacturing is and the role that AI has in all of our industry.
Thank you.
Thanks for the time.
Yeah, buddy. Thank you. And TEDCO's been a great supporter of all of us in promoting manufacturing in Maryland. So Randy, I got to tell you, man, I appreciate what you've done up to today and what you're going to be doing to influence Maryland manufacturing and manufacturing in the country. Thank you so much.
Mike, thank you. Everything that you and Mike, both Mikes do. So appreciate it and appreciate what everybody in this call does. So thank you.
Okay. Any last words, Randy? That's it. Okay. I know you got to go. You can stay if you like, but
thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
I don't think we have any other questions. Yeah, I think you covered most of them.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks, Randy.
Thanks, Randy. Appreciate it, buddy.
And for everyone who may not be following the chat, Xometry will post their data and their survey results. It'll be on their website, but RMI and MVP will also make sure we get that information out to you all when it's available. It's really fascinating stuff, and the work they're doing is certainly phenomenal. Mike, Randy just kind of whet our appetites a little bit with the talk about AI and technology. Do you want to just give your thoughts or a sense of what is going on in the state of technology here in Maryland?
Well, let me just say, in fact, we have on this call Aris Melissaratos, who is our board chairman, and Aris wrote a book a few years back about technology and society. The reality is that the whole history of mankind is about technology. Technology continues to move us to a different point in time. What's fundamentally different when it comes to AI, as I understand it, and there are guys out there, folks out there a lot smarter than me, is that there are things about AI that they can't explain, and that is the capacity for AI to think. So what they know is that AI can learn on its own, and they're still trying to figure out how did that happen. So that's why that's the piece of AI we got to keep an eye on so that it doesn't, things don't get out of control. But as it relates to, I think, society, as it relates to industry, all industries driven by technology. I mean, Mike, we started talking years ago about Industry 4.0. Back then it was the Internet of Things and 3D printing, 3D scanning, data, big data, and all that. That's still relevant, but AI can now take that and supercharge it. And that's not even getting at quantum computing that some of you heard about. Maryland's made a big investment in quantum computing. That's going to be far more significant than any computing capacity that we've had in the past. So I would say that you're not going to prevent it from happening, and I think it's going to dramatically improve the ability for us to meet unmet needs in a much more quicker fashion and probably in a more robust fashion. And I know that's very general. And by the way, this isn't just about manufacturing. This is about life. This is about how we communicate, how we live our lives, how we're going to shop, how we're going to live, and how we're going to work. My advice is get on YouTube and listen to people talk about AI so that you have an understanding. This is not something to ignore. And there will ultimately be new jobs created. But I don't know what they are. There are people out there that are arguing what they're going to be. There's YouTube out there that talk about what positions are going to be lost as a result of AI. But it's coming. And Mike, I think you and I, RMI and MEP, we're going to continue to provide more information about AI. Other groups are doing the same, but it's definitely coming. And it's tough. It's really hard. This is not like a simple technology. And we're asking our manufacturers to understand it. It's like, it's really tough. And we're asking our public policy makers to understand it. And I'm telling you, there a lot more work needs to be done in that area. I know that there are a lot of folks investigating it and looking at it, but it's a different time. It's a different time. So, Mike, let's talk a little bit about the Industry 4.0. I don't see any questions about it, but we might want to give folks an update on that.
Yeah.
As many of you know, Delegate Lily Chee introduced legislation last year that became law that allowed that $1 million was set aside for small to medium-sized companies to apply to purchase technology, 4.0 technologies. And there's different levels of matching grant, either 50% or 5% matching grant. And back in October, the Maryland Commerce opened up the gates for applications. And one of the things we talked about, there was a pilot program. So the need, there was $1 million put into a fund to fund this program, $1 million. RMI and others, we asked for 10 million, but we got $1 million. But based on the number of applications that came in, the matching grant part of those applications was about a little over $18 million. So it was 18 times what was funded for this. So if you had and I did hear from Heather Graham, and I think they will soon be announcing the folks that got the awards. But obviously there's going to be more people that didn't get it than did get it. And both Mike Kelleher and I and others, we are definitely saying to folks, talk to your elected officials about adding more money to this fund. It obviously is needed. There's no question about it. Mike, what do you think?
No, I think that's a good update. We're in the second round of this fund put forward by the Maryland Department of Commerce at $1 million per year. Purchase and procure and implement 4.0 technologies, and it's pretty broad in the level of what those technologies are. As Mike shared, we certainly think it's a great opportunity for all Maryland manufacturers. We would encourage you to take advantage of that. And it's something that we want to see continue to grow as we look at our competitor states to the north and to the south. What we modeled that program on when we worked with the legislators was we need this as a resource so that our manufacturers can compete. In some of our neighboring states, the program has grown from just a few $1 million to upwards of $20-30 million a year that's available for their manufacturers. So as Mike said, continue to share that message, continue to push it forward, and let's increase the ask, but let's do it in a way where we're able to demonstrate what these technologies are and what we're doing with that.
Manufacturing. It's easy to say technology and talent, but quite frankly, the future of Maryland manufacturing is in the hands of the people that are on this call and others who understand the robust economy. And it's very obvious that if we helped our manufacturing base, we would build that economy in a different way. And it's people like those folks that are on this call who care enough about manufacturing to want to hear about these things. So now more than ever is the time to talk to your public policy makers and say, look, you want to help our economy, keep investing in this. And by the way, the $10 million that we asked for, it was $10 million a year for 5 years. When compared to other states similar to Maryland, that's actually a low number. That's a low number. Other states are doing 50 million in a year. Again, the message is we need to make Maryland manufacturing a priority. Do we have any questions here that one of the challenges I hear is training? Is there a place where we can get these Maryland numbers and data? Somebody asked that question. I guess Maryland Commerce is probably a good place to go if you want to get information about Maryland manufacturing. They have a website. And Maryland MEP, Mike, you've done some pretty good stuff in reporting the value of Maryland manufacturing.
And on the Maryland MEP website, we have a lot of industry data on manufacturing and the numbers and the industries. We commissioned a report a few years ago to look at the different industries that are in Maryland. And I think Randy touched on it a little bit, right? The aerospace and defense continues to explode in Maryland as well as nationwide. The life sciences continues to be one of the larger emerging sectors that we've got. Food and beverage manufacturing, look across the state, and we've got food and beverage producers in just about every corner of the state. I think a question just came through, Mike, on the results and timing of the 4.0 grants. We expect those to come out to Mike, and I know this is near and dear to your heart, but it seems to still be the #1 challenge across the industry is workforce. And we've talked a lot about the 4.0 technologies, and we've talked about AI and how it's going to impact the workforce. We've had a couple questions here come through of what are we doing to impact the youth and educate the youth? And then another question about the education level of people who are working in manufacturing. And I'll take that one first. We're fortunate that we're in an industry where you all are already doing it, right? There's a push to provide opportunity to all, and there's a push for things like diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. And manufacturing has always been an industry that there is an opportunity for all, right? When we go and look across you all and your operations, and we go across the state, you can find workforce in manufacturing that is all levels, right? College educated, some college, high school diploma, no college at all, maybe not even a high school diploma in all cases, all the way on up to our engineers that are highly technical with advanced degrees. Maryland is very diverse in our manufacturing base, and that's not just the companies that we have and the industries that we're in, but it's also the workforce that we've got. It's an industry that has always been welcoming to those, from reentry to reskilling to veteran populations to displaced workforce. There really is an opportunity for all comers in manufacturing. Mike, any thoughts on the workforce side of the talent side?
Yeah, and I'm looking at also a question about, somebody asked about, I think it's Sean Wise, maybe, it's what is the education level of people doing manufacturing in Maryland? This is another area that people need to investigate the reality of who works in Maryland manufacturing. From the Maryland Department of Labor, I was told that their data shows that about 40% of the roles in manufacturing are in the production area. There's this notion out there that it's all about trades and production. That's just not the reality. I have a list of occupations inside manufacturing. These are the jobs that people advertise in manufacturing companies, and they require degrees. They require expertise. They require certification. So I always like to point out to folks that when you start talking about what's needed in workforce training, please look at what the positions are in manufacturing. Several years ago, RMI did an event where we had almost 500. Well, it was quite a few companies in Baltimore County, and the vast majority of the positions that were being advertised were in fact positions with people that need degrees. Manufacturers, they hire accountants, they hire marketing people, they hire nurses, they hire photographers, and that's part of that story. People don't understand that. That's one issue. My advice for young kids, and we're working with Mike Grubbs, is help them understand the technologies that are changing the world of work and their lives. I don't think you can describe right now what are the skills required in manufacturing when 10 years from now, it's going to be vastly different than what it is today. And one last thing, just take some credit, RMI and MEP back in November just did a program, Women Making a Difference in Maryland Manufacturing. And we had 160, mostly girls, who were in career and technology programs. And that was a wonderful event. So I say what you need to do is build a relationship with these younger folks so that they understand the technologies, that many of which they're familiar with, so that they then start saying, oh, I get it. If I go to work in manufacturing, we'll have an opportunity to use these technologies. So I know that's a lot of information, but I can assure you that the jobs in manufacturing go far beyond just production work. Although that's needed, and CNCs and all, that's all needed, we also need other positions filled, and they have trouble filling them. Mike, has that been your experience? I mean, I just want to, I know you do a lot of work with helping young people learn about, what's going on in there, and I think that's important. But, when you're inside companies, they've got to be talking to you about, needing, senior level people to come in to help run the companies.
It really is all, and just kind of sticking with the youth, to Randy's point, we need to continue to do more with that, right? We need to keep the kids engaged, the educators engaged. I would encourage you all to open up your facilities and get a school group or a technical group out to tour your, because the thing to show the future workers that there isn't an opportunity in manufacturing, and that it is cool, right? When we walk through these facilities, the best part of my job, and I'm sure Mike would say the same, is I get to go visit all of these different manufacturing facilities we have across Maryland. And, there's technology going on. There's cool things that are being made in Maryland. So showing kids and educators and really, the rest of the community, what really goes on in these facilities, that there's, it takes a technical skill level to program some of these machines and operate some of these machines. The engineering is obviously the next level, but the engineers are designing and building these products that are really represented in everything that we do. So the more our industry can open up our doors, whether it's on manufacturing day for just a plant tour to a high school group, or a teacher. In the past, we've supported things like teacher boot camps in the city of Baltimore, where we've gotten teachers from Baltimore City and Baltimore County out to visit some of these manufacturing facilities, because they're the ones that are providing the counseling and the coaching to these students that may not want to go on to a 4-year degree, and they can show them what opportunities are out there. Opening your doors and showing people kind of what is made and how it's made. Maryland and MEP and RMI through Maryland Public Television have done kind of a how it's made series in the past. The more we can do that, and share that message, the better we are. And then creating opportunities to get these individuals engaged. Early on, there was a question about college internships and our thoughts on that. For the last 6 or 7 years, the Maryland MEP has supported the manufacturing internship program. If you haven't participated in that, I would encourage you to reach out and be a part of it. What that is we connect college students to internships in manufacturing, and it doesn't have to be just engineering. It's been environmental, it's been marketing, it's been engineering, it's been HR, it's been production roles. Because what the data shows is that if we get these college students into experiences where they are working in manufacturing, they're more likely to come back to those positions. And the internship program that we run, not only do they get to work in those facilities, but they also get a chance to go tour other manufacturing facilities around. So the hope is, obviously, we want them all to love their work experience that they get over the summer. But if they don't like working there, at least they stay in the manufacturing field and they stay in Maryland. That's got to be one of our key drivers. We've got these great universities in Maryland. We've got these great technical schools and community colleges in Maryland. We got to do more to keep that talent here working in our facilities and working for the companies that we've got. And we need to do that by showing them that there is a path to a future there.
It's a great point, Mike. And one other thing as it relates to the younger students that are in, let's say, in secondary school, it manufactures a place to send CD students. And I've never subscribed to that view. Manufacturers, and many people know this, it's more about behavioral issues. They need students that have demonstrated a commitment to getting work done. And so I would like to suggest that we never give up on the notion that our educational systems ought to do a better job of getting kids through there who are educated and have the traits and the attitudes towards contributing to the world of work if they go to work for someone, because we hear that a lot. And Mike, I'm sure you do. Mike, we've been getting a lot of different questions here, and we got like a few minutes left. I'm not sure. Are there programs you might work with? Yes, there are programs where manufacturers are working with colleges and community colleges. I think there's a lot of areas around the state where you see that. Carroll County does a great job. Frederick County, the Eastern Shore. There's a lot of local efforts where the manufacturers have gotten together to connect with their local educational systems. Mike, can you see some of these questions?
Yeah, I'm going through some of them
Yeah,
now.
there's a lot here. We can't really cover all these right now. I don't think our goal is to build a more resilient. Somebody's saying, I bet, somebody made a comment that I bet most manufacturers develop their own talent. I think there's a lot of that goes on. I do believe that there's a lot of manufacturing companies that have found ways to develop their own talent in order to keep them and to bring them up to speed with the skills that they need. Okay, well, everybody can, there's a lot here, so we can't cut, it's everywhere Maryland service year, something about service year option. We're not interested, I mean, there's a lot there. We can try to send that information out to people. Mike, one last, let's just jump back, if I may, with regards to the Industry 4.0. I think David Menzies from Commerce wanted to say, he's got 1 minute to give us what we didn't cover. David, can you just cover what we didn't cover? You got 1 minute. And Stacy, can you unmute him?
I just did.
Okay. Wait a minute, he's still muted. Just give us Dave. just
Okay,
give
here we
us the
go.
Update. Just give us, let me ask the questions and you answer them. When do you think we're going to know who got the awards?
Probably within about 2 weeks at this point. We announced last year on March 21st was the governor's announcement. I'm bound and determined to definitely beat that by a month. So at least by February 21st,
Okay.
probably early February.
And
Yep.
as one of the questions that I have, I'm assuming your office will notify people, not only who got the awards, but the ones that didn't, they'll be notified at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
I've consistently instructed
fine.
people that,
Yeah.
this way, you will hear from us at one of these points.
Now-
If we need more information, if you will hear the announcement, you will hear that you have not been funded, basically.
Okay.
But beyond that, we can't talk about any application.
And the other thing that I was told is that the governor only put $1 million into the commerce program. Is that correct?
Well, the
This
governor
year.
put $1 million in last year and again
Uh,
this year. Next year, we will actually be running on the state money.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by state money?
The money appropriated by the legislature in the law. So we've been
Okay.
running off a commerce budget million for the past 2 years. We will be on money coming at us through the legislation next year and next year through 2028.
Okay, and is that going to be the 10 million a year for 5 years? Do you know?
No. What's in statute is only $1 million through a year through 2028. If we want to try to change that, we could do that. It would be a good effort for
So-
part of the manufacturing community.
Well, I mean, if we want to change it, we got a lackluster economy, man. You know, we got to do something more to help
Right.
manufacturing be competitive. All right, Mike, do you have any questions of Dave?
No, thanks, Dave. We're looking forward to seeing
Sure.
those announcements.
Yeah, and also, David, one last thing, and I know you don't have it yet, but at one time we were talking about which sectors had applied, because I think that's important too, for the
Yeah.
public
I
policy
hope to
purposes.
provide that, but actually before the awards or as part of the award announcement. And if not, we'll do that immediately afterwards. But just to recap what you guys were saying, we've seen everything, food production,
Right.
vineyards, breweries, distilleries, all the way to biotech, life sciences,
okay.
aerospace. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Hey, Mike, before we go, I want to, hey, Stacy, can you unmute Eris Melissaratos, please? Eris is our chair for Regional Manufacturing Institute. And also, as many of you know, was a former DBED secretary. Eris, you got 1 minute to kind of summarize what you heard today?
Gee, Mike, that's a tall order. You guys said a lot. But yes, Randy's summary and his use of AI is exactly where we all need to go. I view AI as just an evolution of computing. And
Yeah.
Randy, when he set up Exometry, did just that. He went out and picked up all the data out there from different manufacturers. And he picked all the data from users and trying to match out buyers and sellers of the right kind of technology. And that keeps evolving. Now, I say AI is an evolution of computing. And AI will not cause the jobs to go away. AI will make people's jobs easier and more effective. Because as we get faster and faster computing, we're able to marry big data with the speed of computing and do many more iterations before the computer provides you an answer. So I think that's very, very key. And I think as we go to more advanced technology being applied to the product design, we'll be able to get more data of what works and what doesn't work. And we'll have continuing improving product quality coming out. We'll have continually improving cost of that quality being reduced. And we'll have a much more usable product overall. And then you get to the workforce in manufacturing. I think it'll be a skilled workforce. It'll be a workforce that requires a lot of computing capability, because you need, the way you drive AI, the way you control AI is by being able to know when it stops, when to stop it from going too far. And I think that Maryland manufacturing is, needs to be put on a pedestal relative to other states because we have more research in this state than most other states do. And the fact that all this research is being done all around in the drug world with NIH
Right.
and FDA, in manufacturing through NIST and through processes and product control. So the work you guys are doing is very, very important.
So Mike, excuse me, Aris, Mike, so what did you think of what Aris just said? You think we got a champion of Maryland manufacturing here?
Absolutely.
Look, the real champion is the work group that you guys formed 2 or 3 years ago. The
Okay,
fact that you got people like Delegate Shi and others that are involved in our workforce shows that you're having an impact educating the legislators who are going to get that investment in manufacturing up. And
Okay.
as you heard from Commerce,
right,
the last couple of years, the $1 million, the meager $1 million that we got came out of Commerce's budget. It didn't come out of the input of that work group. Next year, the work group will have an opportunity through the legislature to add new money to what Commerce has been putting in, the $1 million.
right.
Can they ever get to 10? I don't know. They need to get to 20, but they're going to find it hard to get to 10, even with the current budget environment being what it is.
Yeah,
But
Okay,
success breeds success. And as we prove that the investment works and more Maryland manufacturers are improving their competitiveness through that investment, I think all the legislators will get the message and the governor will get the message and catch up to some of the states that are over investing in manufacturing.
all right, thanks, Aris, appreciate it. Mike, so what do you think? First, Mike and Mike.
First, thank you everybody for getting on. Our hope is to bring more of this. So if you have feedback on things you'd like to hear or like to hear us share more of, it's meant to be conversational. Mike and I could talk about manufacturing forever. So, we want to bring value to you all. And I think Randy's message to start the day and to start this series was spot on of where we need to go. And I look forward to seeing the research that they've done and how we can leverage that to really grow what we're trying to do in Maryland. So,
And Mike, I just want to say to the group, if I may, Maryland MEP is the group that can help manufacturers in your district to be more competitive. So if you haven't connected with them, please do. One of the big initiatives that we have with them that they're doing, it has to deal with issues related to sustainability. And we have a webinar coming up that MEP is hosting with RMI that's going to help manufacturers learn about the programs at the Maryland Energy Administration. Together and with the support of people on this call and others, we're going to make a difference. So, Mike, I'll leave you with the final words.
I would just say stay engaged, stay involved. There's lots of great programs and resources available from our state partners, our local partners, and from RMI and MEP directly. That information is on our website. I would encourage you to go there or reach out to us. This was meant to be a conversation and it's not a sales pitch. So we're here as a resource. Take advantage of the resource. We need to get our community stronger and moving forward together. So thank you everybody for your attendance today. And thank you to our speakers and our partners and our sponsors for manufacturing.
Thank you. Bye-bye.